The sun had only just begun to dip behind the serrated skyline of Dubai Marina on the evening of June 13, 2025, when residents of the 67-story Marina Pinnacle first smelled the faint, acrid hint of smoke. At 21:30, local time, a swirl of grey began to snake past balcony railings on the 60th floor, almost timid at first, like steam from a kettle left a little too long on the hob. Within minutes, the timid tendril had swollen into a dense plume, rolling upward in ever-thickening layers until it eclipsed the tower's gleaming facade, and what started as an uneasy curiosity became, for more than 3,000 people, a race against a rising wall of fire. Families in living rooms were jolted from quiet dinners. Fitness enthusiasts on treadmills in the communal gym stumbled as alarms flickered, then cut out. Toddlers in pastel pajamas stared wide-eyed at parents hurriedly stuffing passports, laptops, and a favorite stuffed giraffe into tote bags. Neighbors pounded on doors that would not open fast enough. Elevators, miraculously still powered, became both blessing and risk, for every descent to the lobby felt like rolling loaded dice against the flames. Marina Pinnacle, nicknamed Tiger Tower after its developer, has stood since 2011 among the glass mountains that fringe the artificial canal of Dubai Marina, its 280-meter crown usually aglow with decorative light strips that mark its place in the nighttime constellation of super-tall silhouettes. The tower's 764 apartments are home to an estimated 3,020 residents, a cross-section of Dubai's multinational tapestry. Software engineers from Bangalore, finance analysts from London, Filipina, nurses working split shifts at clinics, Emirati entrepreneurs, Brazilian influencers, Ukrainian esports professionals, Syrian restaurateurs, and a surprising number of retired couples who chose the Gulf breeze over colder homelands. Few of them had ever met more than a handful of their fellow inhabitants. That would change over the next frantic hours as they filed, sweating and soot-streaked, down emergency stairwells whose fluorescent strips blinked like tired eyelids. Outside, the Dubai Civil Defense had arrived almost as quickly as the first videos hit social media. Fire trucks fanned out along Al Sharta Street and the tram lines that curl around the base of the tower like silver shoelaces. Hydraulic platforms hissed upward, their mechanical arms extending rescue baskets toward windows now rimmed in orange. From neighboring balconies, phones recorded the high-altitude ballet, jets of pressurized water arcing through humid Gulf air to hammer at stubborn flames more than 200 meters above the ground. Occasionally, a piece of cladding, ember bright, would shear from the tower's crown and tumble like a meteor toward cordoned pavement. Bystanders gasped. Police, already redirecting passers-by, expanded the exclusion zone, tightening the circle of safety with brisk, shouted instructions. Above the din, the faint whoop of ambulance sirens stitched through traffic. Precautionary, though no civilian had yet suffered anything more serious than smoke inhalation. Inside the stairwells, by now thick with the cough-inducing sting of burning insulation, residents found improvised solidarity. A retired Algerian schoolteacher guided a jittery teenage gamer down 40 flights, talking about the mathematics of football scores to distract him. A Bangladeshi nanny carried the pet carrier of a British graphic designer whose wrist had sprained under the strain of a suitcase. Two software architects from São Paulo, meeting for the first time despite having lived on adjacent floors for 3 years, took turns supporting an elderly Sudanese man with arthritic knees. They paused every 10 floors to let the man breathe from an inhaler that was running dangerously low. When the group reached the lobby, they were met not by chaos, but an assembly line of cool efficiency, paramedics with bottled water and oximeters, volunteers handing out chilled towels, civil defense officers guiding each cluster toward temporary muster points lit by portable flood lamps. Overhead, the battle against the inferno was a contest of vertical limits. Traditional firefighting tactics waver at such altitudes. The pressure drop at higher elevations reduces the reach and velocity of water streams, and the wind shear between marina towers can bend a hose jet off target by meters. Yet Dubai's brigades had drilled for super-tall emergencies since the flammable facade fires of the mid-2010s. Their custom pump trucks, able to push water 900 liters per minute through composite hoses reinforced to withstand the heat, now pulsed in rhythmic bursts. Firefighters in heat-reflective suits ascended interior service elevators reserved for emergencies, hacking through smoke to reach staging zones on floors 52 and 58, where they formed leapfrog teams, one crew cooling corridors, the next advancing behind thermal imaging cameras that pierced through blackness to locate embers seeding in ceiling panels. Time dilated for the evacuees on the street. The Marina Canal, normally a parade of yachts and dinner dhows, became an inky mirror for the flames. Spectators, some in evening gowns stepping out of nearby restaurants, others in joggers who had abandoned treadmill screens mid-session, clustered behind police tape. Hushed. From the Palm Jumeirah monorail, riders filmed the blaze as their train slowed, then halted entirely. The Roads and Transport Authority soon suspended tram operations between Marina Towers and Palm Gateway, citing passenger safety. News outlets from Manila to Manchester picked up amateur video clips, cycles of 20-second footage that ricocheted across feeds, each repost amplifying the astonishment that such an event, so spectacular, could unfold without immediate tragedy. By 01:30, 4 hours after the first distressed call, the visible flame had shrunk to an angry core at the building's pinnacle. Grey columns gave way to lighter plumes of steam as water found its mark. Interior teams reported temperatures receding below the flashpoint threshold. At 02:09, the Dubai Media Office issued a statement. Every resident, all 820 souls, had been evacuated and accounted for. Outside, applause rippled through a crowd that had swelled despite cordons. Paramedics confirmed no critical injuries. Some evacuees, adrenaline ebbing, cried silent tears of relief. Others stared upward, processing the notion that everything they owned might now be soaking wet, charred, or both. In the hush that followed the official all clear, one could hear the marina breeze again, the rustle of palm fronds, the distant hum of air conditioning units from buildings whose lights still twinkled unperturbed. First light over the Gulf revealed a scarred tower head. Blackened concrete ribs, shattered window panes, railings twisted by heat. Patches of melted aluminum clung like sagging drapery. Yet the tower stood straight, defiant, its core structure apparently intact. Engineers from the municipality's building inspection division moved through blast-sealed elevators to begin structural assessment. They drilled cores, measured steel temperatures with infrared sensors, set up laser theodolites to detect any lean or torsion in the concrete spine. Preliminary readings suggested the integrity of main columns remained within safety thresholds, a testament to the rigorous building codes implemented across Dubai after earlier high-rise fires had prompted regulatory reform. Still, authorities kept the marina pinnacle vacant. No electricity, no gas. Empty corridors echoed under the footsteps of investigators collecting debris samples for laboratory analysis that might tell whether a faulty appliance, a pinched cable, or some other catalyst had sparked the blaze. Displaced residents, meanwhile, were not left adrift. The tower's management company, in coordination with Dubai's Community Development Authority, arranged hotel rooms across Media City and Jumeirah Beach residents. Check-in counters stayed open through dawn. Breakfasts were comped. Essentials from pharmacies were delivered by volunteers linked via a municipal emergency response app. For families without passports, left behind on coffee tables in the rush, immigration desks at Mina Siyahi set up a temporary office to issue replacements. Insurance assessors formed triage desks in hotel lobbies to begin claims. In WhatsApp groups hastily formed on the curb, neighbors swapped phone chargers, baby formula, pet food vouchers. What emerged overnight was an impromptu community, stitched together by shared ordeal, the sort of human tapestry that rarely forms in the vertical privacy of luxury towers, but flourishes when facade walls and routine are stripped away. As dawn turned to mid-morning, international media descended in full force. Satellite vans jammed side streets. Anchors stood beneath the skeletal crown of the tower, gesturing at tendrils of residual smoke. They spoke of past fires, from the Torch Tower, 200 meters to the east, to the Zenith and Tamwheel incidents, and asked whether a pattern of facade combustibility remained unresolved. Fire engineering specialists interviewed on air pointed to Dubai's updated codes. Post-2017 revisions mandated non-combustible cladding on new projects and required retrofits on older ones. Marina Pinnacle had embarked on such a retrofit last year, replacing composite panels with fire-rated materials from floor 30 upward. Ironically, that retrofit was nearly complete, and investigators would later hypothesize that the new cladding's firebreak slowed vertical flame spread, preventing a potential cascade down the full height. Throughout these broadcasts, one statistic dominated: 0 fatalities. In an incident involving a 60-plus-story residential tower packed with thousands of occupants, the absence of loss of life was extraordinary. Experts ascribed the outcome to a constellation of factors: the sheer number of well-trained firefighters, the high-capacity water pumps, the redundancy built into Dubai's civil defense communication grid, and perhaps luck that windy conditions did not pick up earlier in the night. Yet luck favors the prepared. The Marina District's fire station response time averages under 6 minutes. Crews drill quarterly in every tower over 40 floors. Annual joint exercises with police, ambulance and municipal transport drill precisely for scenarios like suspended tram lines and maritime evacuations. The synergy showed. Even when building alarms failed on several floors, an issue under separate technical scrutiny, neighbor-to-neighbor knocks, corridor loudhailers, and phone alerts picked up the slack, revealing a social safety net that regulations can encourage but not mandate. Inside hotel conference rooms, repurposed as briefing centers, building management representatives faced lines of tenants anxious about personal belongings. They promised escorted visits to lower floors within 72 hours, pending air quality clearance. They circulated inventory guidelines, photograph every damaged item, retain charred electronics for insurance, request certified loss forms for jewelry. Translators oscillated among Arabic, English, Hindi, Tagalog, and Russian. Coffee urns never emptied. Outside, children in ill-matched pajamas kicked soccer balls on polished lobby tiles, blissfully indifferent to adult worries except for the novelty of buffet breakfasts, far superior to school cafeterias. Online, sentiments oscillated between shock and admiration. Hashtags praising the firefighters trended in dozens of countries. A clip recorded by a French tourist on a dinner cruise showing a lone ladder nozzle silhouetted against skyscraper flames like a lighthouse in a storm garnered 8 million views within 12 hours. Underneath, comments multiplied. Prayers, emojis, reminders to check smoke detectors. Many noted the paradox of spectacular visuals contrasted with the merciful headline of 0 casualties. Skeptics, as always, questioned the transparency of reports. Yet every hospital in Dubai confirmed no admissions beyond mild inhalation cases. Independent wire services cross-checked with embassy hotlines for missing person reports and found none. The data stood firm. Not a single life lost. Forensic teams in lab coats combed through blackened debris collected from the upper corridors. Fragments of insulation, melted copper, a warped lithium-ion battery whose swollen cells suggested thermal runaway. Thermal runaway in a single battery pack can reach 900 degrees Celsius within seconds, hot enough to ignite curtains, upholstery, even low-grade metal fittings. If proven, the root cause narrative would shift from cladding fears to the hazards of ubiquitous electronics. The global insurance industry, which had already adjusted premiums on super-talls after earlier facade fires, watched with keen interest. Preliminary estimates put insured losses around $85 million, significant yet manageable, and notably less than the multi-hundred million reconstructions of past incidents thanks to limited structural damage. Amid the technical dissections, personal stories continued to surface. A Syrian dentist reunited with the Belgian neighbor who had carried his cat to safety, gifting a tray of Katayev pastries as gratitude. A South African fitness instructor discovered that the stranger who steadied her grandmother on the staircase was the same person she rode the elevator with each morning yet never spoke to. Two Brazilian coders, bonded over ash-speckled hoodies, launched a Telegram group titled Pinnacle Phoenix to coordinate communal donations, and by week's end had raised 43,000 dirhams for displaced families without insurance. The group's tagline, "Our tower will rise cleaner, safer, stronger." By late afternoon of June 14th, with embers cold, the Defense Civil Commander stood before a semicircle of reporters and declared the situation under control. He listed the numbers: dozens of fire engines dispatched, 172 firefighters rotated in 4 waves, 40 ambulances on standby, then invited the assembled press to tour a 7th-floor apartment, untouched by flame, yet damp with suppression water. Plaster dust-coated dining chairs, ceiling plaster had collapsed in sheets, and yet, behind smoked glass, the turquoise canal and bobbing yachts reflected afternoon sun exactly as on countless calm days before. The physical world had scarred. The view remained, a reminder of continuity. Night drew in, this time without sirens. The Marina towers lit their decorative crowns, minus one darkened pinnacle being probed by engineers' floodlights. On sidewalks below, diners returned to al fresco tables, conversation volume rising. The smell of smoke persisted faintly, a reminder, but also a marker of having endured. In hotel lobbies, marina front apartments flickered on telecasts, displaying looping footage of last night's blaze, while evacuees checked phone notifications announcing tomorrow's schedule for supervised apartment access. Children fell asleep early. Their parents lay awake, compiling lists of what mattered most to grab first in the brief return. Passports, heirloom jewelry, perhaps the half-finished watercolor painting a daughter had taped to her bedroom wall. In the days that followed, global commentary assessed Dubai's performance against a cautionary backdrop of other cities where high-rise fires had ended in heartbreaking loss. Here, the outcome was different. The Emirates' relentless push for preparedness, the investment in specialized equipment capable of reaching the uppermost floors, and the insistence on multi-language evacuation drills paid dividends. Yes, there were alarms that failed and cladding sections yet to be fully replaced, and these shortcomings will feed audits and corrective orders. But the overarching narrative is undeniable. When the test came, the system saved lives. It saved them not by chance but by design, by budgets allocated to civil defense, by codes rewritten after each past misstep, by a governance culture that treats crisis response capability as brand equity every bit as valuable as shimmering skylines and record-breaking tourist numbers. And this is why, as Marina Pinnacle prepares for repairs and its residents prepare to move back into homes that will soon carry the scent of fresh primer instead of burnt plastic, it is reasonable to tilt our conclusions in favor of Dubai. The city's critics often point to the vertiginous pace of its construction and ask whether safety keeps up with ambition. Last night provided a provisional answer. In a densely populated ultra-vertical district, a major fire consumed the upper floors of a 280-meter tower, and not a single life was lost. Emergency mechanisms, from dispatch algorithms to multilingual evacuation support, activated with clockwork precision. Temporary housing, medical attention, and administrative assistance were extended within hours. Regulations mandating fire-resistant retrofits demonstrably slowed the blaze's spread. Engineers confirmed the superstructure's resilience, validating stringent concrete standards. Residents, tourists, and onlookers witnessed not only a dramatic disaster, but also a coordinated, humane response that turned potential tragedy into a testament of readiness. When judged on outcomes grounded in verifiable fact, no fatalities, limited injuries, swift containment, comprehensive aftercare, Dubai's approach to urban safety under pressure emerges as both competent and compassionate, deserving of recognition and indeed of commendation.